The Silent Watchers. The stars had always called to humanity, but Captain Alina Vasquez knew better than most that the galaxy held secrets darker than the void between worlds. Standing on the bridge of the exploration vessel Meridian, she watched as her small crew prepared for what might be their most dangerous mission yet. The ship hummed quietly through space, its engines barely disturbing the cosmic silence that surrounded them. Alina was not like the explorers of old Earth stories. She was practical, careful, and had survived 17 years of deep space exploration by trusting her instincts above all else. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple knot, and her brown eyes held the steady gaze of someone who had seen both wonders and horrors among the stars. The Meridian was her home, and her crew was her family. Dr. Marcus Chen, the ship's science officer, looked up from his console with excitement dancing in his eyes. Marcus was younger than Alina, barely 30, but his brilliant mind had already revolutionized 3 different fields of xenobiology. His hands moved quickly across the holographic displays, analyzing data streams that flowed like digital waterfalls before him. "Captain, you need to see this," Marcus said, his voice carrying that particular tone he used when science collided with the impossible. "The energy readings from that structure ahead are unlike anything in our databases. The signature is old, Alina. Really old." Lieutenant Sarah Kane, their security officer and backup pilot, moved closer to examine the data. Sarah was tall and athletic, with short blonde hair and the kind of alert posture that came from years of military training. She had joined the Meridian after serving with the Colonial Defense Force, bringing both combat experience and a pilot's intuitive understanding of spacecraft to their small crew. Alina studied the massive structure that dominated their forward viewer. The alien space station hung in the darkness like a metallic flower, its curved sections spreading outward from a central hub. Strange lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that seemed almost organic, as if the station itself was breathing. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "How old are we talking about, Marcus?" Alina asked, though she suspected she might not like the answer. "Preliminary dating suggests at least 50,000 years, possibly older. Captain, this predates every known civilization in this sector. Whoever built this was working with technology we can barely comprehend." Sarah frowned at her tactical display. "I'm not detecting any active weapon systems, but that doesn't mean much with tech this advanced. The power readings are massive though. Whatever's inside that thing, it's very much alive." Alina made her decision with the calm certainty that had kept her crew safe for so many years. "We investigate, but carefully. Sarah, bring us in slow and steady. Marcus, I want continuous scans of everything. If something even looks at us wrong, we're out of here." As the Meridian approached the ancient station, Alina felt that familiar mixture of excitement and apprehension that came with every first contact situation. Humanity had learned much about the galaxy in their few centuries among the stars, but they had also learned humility. The universe was vast and full of beings who could crush human civilization without effort. The station responded to their approach with a series of light patterns that seemed almost welcoming. Docking ports opened along its lower section, revealing chambers that appeared designed for vessels much like their own. It was an invitation, but Alina had survived too many encounters to trust appearances. "Something's not right," she murmured, studying the readings. "This is too convenient. Stations don't just adapt their docking systems to unknown ship designs." Before anyone could respond, the Meridian shuddered, not from an impact or weapon strike, but from some kind of tractor beam that was far more sophisticated than anything humans had developed. The ship moved toward the station despite Sarah's attempts to break free, drawn in by invisible forces that treated their engines like toy propellers in a hurricane. "We're caught," Sarah reported, her hands dancing across the controls. "Whatever's pulling us in, it's not giving us a choice." Alina felt her jaw tighten. "Then we go in ready. Sarah, emergency protocols. Marcus, grab your portable scanner and anything else you think we might need. If we're walking into a trap, We're going in armed and informed." The docking process was smooth and eerily quiet. As the Meridian settled into the station's embrace, Alina could see through the viewports that they were not alone. Other ships filled nearby docking bays, vessels of designs she had never seen before. Some appeared to be recent arrivals, while others showed signs of having been there for years or even decades. The station's atmosphere proved compatible with human needs, though Marcus detected trace elements that suggested they were not the intended occupants. As they prepared to disembark, Alina gathered her crew around her for what might be their final briefing as free beings. "Remember, we're explorers, not conquerors," she said quietly. "We observe, we learn, and we survive. Whatever's running this place, they've been here a lot longer than we have. Respect that, but don't let it make you careless." The airlock opened to reveal a corridor that stretched away into soft blue light. The walls were covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow when viewed directly, creating an almost hypnotic effect. Alina led the way, her hand resting casually on her sidearm, while Marcus recorded everything with his scanner. They had walked for perhaps 10 minutes when they encountered the station's inhabitants. The Corvani emerged from side passages with the fluid grace of natural predators, surrounding the human crew before anyone realized they were no longer alone. Alina found herself facing beings that stood nearly 8 feet tall, their reptilian features combining intelligence with unmistakable predatory instincts. The Corvani leader wore armor that seemed to be grown rather than forged, its surface shifting between deep purple and black, like oil on water. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of absolute power, though Alina was surprised to discover that her universal translator could handle his language perfectly. "More scavengers," the Corvani said with obvious disdain. "Humans, from the look of you. Tell me, little mammals, what brings you to disturb our collection?" Alina stepped forward, her diplomatic training overriding her survival instincts. "I am Captain Alina Vasquez of the exploration vessel Meridian. We detected this station and came to investigate. We mean no harm." The Corvani leader's laugh was like breaking glass. "Harm? You could not harm us if you tried, human. I am Warlord Thaxon of the Corvani Empire, and you are now my prisoners. Your ship will join our collection, as will you." Sarah's hand moved toward her weapon, but Alina caught her wrist with a subtle gesture. They were outnumbered and clearly outgunned. This was not the time for heroics. "Collection?" Alina asked, genuinely curious despite their circumstances. "This station serves as a museum," Thaxon explained with the pride of a connoisseur. "We preserve examples of the galaxy's lesser species, studying their primitive technologies and limited capabilities. Humans are relatively new to space travel, are you not? Your inclusion will complete our mammalian wing." As they were led deeper into the station, Alina observed everything with the trained eye of a survivor. The Corvani technology was impressive, but not incomprehensible. Their guards carried energy weapons that operated on principles similar to human plasma rifles, just more efficiently designed. Their armor showed weak points at the joints, and their arrogance made them predictable. Marcus caught her eye and nodded slightly. He was making the same observations, cataloging everything they saw for future reference. Sarah walked with the deceptive calm of a coiled spring, ready to act when the moment came. The detention area where they were placed was comfortable enough, clearly designed to house a variety of species. Alina estimated that the station held specimens from at least 30 different civilizations, all apparently collected like exotic butterflies by their Corvani captors. As the hours passed, Alina learned more about their situation from conversations with other prisoners. The Corvani had been collecting ships and crews for centuries, studying what they called the evolutionary failures of the galaxy. They viewed themselves as the apex species, destined to rule over all lesser beings. But there was something else, something that made even the Corvani guards speak in hushed tones when they thought no one was listening. An old prisoner, a being that resembled a crystalline spider, shared a story that made Alina's blood run cold. "There are laws," the creature whispered in the darkness of their shared cell. Old laws from the time before the Corvani claimed dominion. Protocol 7. They call it in the ancient tongues. Even the Corvani once obeyed it, but time has made them forget. What is Protocol 7? Elena asked quietly. Never provoke humanity, came the reply. Never wake the sleeping giants of Earth. But that was long ago, when humans were different, when they were feared. Elena felt something stir in her chest, a mixture of pride and terrible understanding. Humanity had changed over the millennia, becoming explorers instead of warriors. But perhaps, she thought as she began to plan their escape, it was time to remind the galaxy what humans were truly capable of when pushed too far. The station's automated systems hummed around them, ancient technology maintaining countless functions without conscious oversight. Elena studied the patterns of light and sound, beginning to understand the rhythm of their prison. Soon, she would show the Corvani that they had made a fundamental error in judgment. They had captured humans, but they had not captured the human spirit. And that, Elena knew, would make all the difference. The awakening storm. Elena had been studying the station's systems for 3 days when opportunity finally presented itself. The Corvani guards followed predictable patterns, their arrogance making them sloppy. They never imagined that their primitive human specimens might possess the intelligence to understand their technology, much less sabotage it. The breakthrough came when Marcus discovered that the station's ancient systems still contained fragments of the original programming. Hidden beneath layers of Corvani modifications were protocols written in a mathematical language that transcended species barriers. These were the laws that had once governed galactic civilization, including the mysterious Protocol 7. Elena, you need to see this, Marcus whispered during their evening meal period. His portable scanner, disguised as a simple medical device, had been working continuously since their capture. I've been analyzing the energy patterns in the walls, and I found something incredible. Sarah leaned closer, her eyes constantly monitoring their guards. What kind of something? The station isn't just Corvani technology, Marcus explained quietly. It's built on top of something much older, something that predates their empire by thousands of years. And I think I can access it. Elena felt her pulse quicken. Explain. The original builders created failsafes, emergency protocols that activate under specific conditions. Protocol 7 isn't just a law, Elena. It's a program, a warning system that spans the entire galaxy through a network of ancient relays. That night, while the station entered its quiet cycle, Elena put her plan into motion. Years of exploration had taught her that every complex system had weaknesses, points where human creativity could find solutions that pure logic missed. The Corvani had superior technology, but they lacked the adaptability that came from being the underdogs for so long. Sarah created a distraction by pretending to fall ill, drawing the guards' attention while Elena and Marcus worked on the cell's locking mechanism. The Corvani energy barriers operated on frequency modulations, but Elena had noticed that certain sound patterns made them flicker. Working together, they created a harmonic resonance using nothing more than their voices and the metal components of their uniforms. The barrier collapsed for exactly 3.7 seconds. It was enough. Elena slipped through the gap with the fluid grace of someone who had spent years navigating cramped spacecraft corridors. The station's maintenance passages were clearly not designed for Corvani physiology, being too narrow and low for their large frames. For a human, they were perfect highways through the station's infrastructure. Following Marcus's guidance through her comm unit, Elena made her way to the station's primary control nexus. The chamber was vast and filled with technology that seemed to grow from the walls like crystalline trees. At its center stood a pillar of pure light, surrounded by interfaces that responded to her touch with surprising warmth. The ancient systems recognized her approach, not as a Corvani, not as a prisoner, but as something else entirely. Text began to appear in the air before her, shifting through languages until it found one she could understand. The words made her heart race with a mixture of fear and incredible pride. Human genetic pattern recognized. Emergency protocols activated. Initiating Protocol 7. Terra awakening. Elena realized that she was not just accessing the station's systems. She was connecting to a network that stretched across the galaxy, ancient relay stations that had been waiting in silence for 50,000 years. The original builders, whoever they had been, had created this network as a warning system, and humanity was the trigger. As the systems around her came alive with purpose, Elena began to understand the truth that the Corvani had forgotten. Humans were not newcomers to the galaxy. They were the descendants of the most feared species in galactic history, warriors who had once brought peace through strength so absolute that entire civilizations chose cooperation over conflict. But time had changed humanity. They had chosen exploration over conquest, curiosity over domination. The galaxy had forgotten what humans were capable of, and humans themselves had almost forgotten as well. The station shuddered as Elena accessed deeper system levels. Through the ancient network, signals raced across space at speeds that made light seem sluggish. On distant worlds, buried installations that had slept for millennia began to power up. Ships that had been waiting in the darkness between stars received activation codes and turned toward known coordinates. Warlord Thaxon arrived in the control chamber with a squad of guards, their weapons trained on Elena as she stood bathed in the light of the central pillar. His reptilian features were twisted with rage and something that might have been fear. "Step away from the controls, human," he commanded. "You do not understand what you are tampering with." Elena turned to face him, and Thaxon took an involuntary step backward. Something had changed in her eyes, a confidence that seemed to burn with inner fire. "I understand perfectly, Warlord. The question is, do you understand what you've done? You are prisoners, specimens for study. Nothing more." "We were explorers," Elena corrected him, "but you've reminded us what we used to be." The station's lights began to pulse in rhythm with the ancient network. Through the walls, they could hear the sound of other prisoners being released as security systems throughout the facility responded to Elena's commands. But that was not the sound that made Thaxon's guards shift nervously. That sound came from space itself, a deep harmonic resonance that spoke of massive ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. The Corvani had collected specimens from across the galaxy, but they had never encountered anything like what was approaching their station. Through the chamber's viewports, shapes began to materialize against the starfield. Human ships, but not like the Meridian. These were vessels from humanity's hidden fleets, ships that had been patrolling the galaxy's dark spaces for centuries, waiting for the day they might be needed. The lead ship was magnificent and terrible, its hull flowing like liquid metal, while weapon ports opened like the eyes of some cosmic predator. Elena recognized the design from historical databases, though she had never believed such ships actually existed. "The ANS Retribution," she said softly. "I thought it was a legend." Thaxon's translator caught her words, and his face went pale beneath his scaled hide. Even the Corvani remembered stories of human dreadnoughts from the old wars, ships that could break planets and reshape star systems. Communications flooded the station as the human fleet took position around the ancient facility. The voice that came through the speakers was calm, professional, and absolutely implacable. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Deep Fleet. Corvani vessel, you have violated Protocol 7 by taking human citizens prisoner. You have 10 minutes to release all detainees and surrender your vessel for inspection." Thaxon found his voice, though it shook with suppressed terror. "The Corvani Empire does not surrender to mammals. We have conquered 1,000 worlds." "You have conquered worlds that chose not to fight back," the Admiral replied. "That was the agreement. Humanity withdrew from galactic politics in exchange for the understanding that we would not be molested. You have broken that agreement." Elena watched as more ships appeared, vessels of every size and configuration. Some were sleek exploration craft like her own Meridian, but others were clearly military vessels of devastating capability. The human fleet had arrived not as conquerors, but as protectors responding to a direct threat to their people. Through the station's communication systems, Alina could hear similar conversations taking place across the galaxy. The ancient network had awakened human fleets that had been hidden in deep space for generations, crews who had volunteered to spend their lives in the darkness between stars, ready to respond if their species was ever threatened with extinction. Faxon made his choice with the desperation of someone who finally understood the magnitude of his error. All detainees will be released immediately. The station surrenders, but Alina was no longer listening to him. She was connected to the network now, feeling the pulse of human civilization across the galaxy. Her people had never truly been explorers hiding from conflict. They had been guardians, watching and waiting, ready to defend not just humanity, but all the species that had chosen peace over war. As the Meridian was released from the station's docking bay, Alina stood on her bridge once more, looking out at the fleet that had come to rescue them. Admiral Chen's flagship moved alongside, and Alina could see the older woman through the command deck viewports. "Thank you, Admiral," Alina transmitted on a private channel. "Thank you, Captain," came the reply. "You reminded us all of something important today. We are explorers by choice, but guardians by nature. The galaxy seems to have forgotten that lesson." Alina smiled as she watched the Corvini station begin its transformation. Human engineers were already working with the ancient systems, turning the prison into something new. A research station, perhaps, or a waypoint for future exploration. The Corvini themselves would be free to leave, but they would carry with them the memory of what they had awakened. As the fleets dispersed back to their patrol routes and hidden stations, Alina set course for new stars. There were still wonders to discover in the galaxy, still civilizations to meet and befriend. But now they all knew that humanity's children were never truly alone among the stars. The galaxy had learned, once again, why Protocol 7 existed. Never provoke humanity, not because they were conquerors, but because they were protectors. And when protectors were forced to act, they did so with the full weight of their conviction behind them. Alina smiled as the stars welcomed them back into their embrace. The universe was vast and full of mysteries, but it was also home to the descendants of Earth, and Earth's children had very long memories indeed.